Hello YouTube and welcome to the final meta tier list for what will likely be a very long time in Population 1. We are going to go over all the weapons. The last tier list I did was a prediction of what would shape up as of day 1 without really much prior testing of the weapons. Now this final tier list is after Diamond Division has completed, as well as at least a month or two of scrims. So we are really a lot more experience now with all of these weapons. We've seen all the best players in the world use these weapons, and we've seen kind of the meta shape up. And so this is the final tier list. Have to start with the MP5 because everyone knows, everyone who's in this channel and watches these videos knows where the MP5 is. It is the god tier. It has less than half a second time to kill, which is ridiculous for a gun that has, short to medium range. It's easy to aim once you get used to it. It kills faster than every other gun out there. It kills probably just as fast as a sword. Very, very, very close in terms of time to kill. So it's just ridiculous. You don't need any other weapon besides this in the short to medium range. It's not medium, but pretty decently short range. UMP is really good, okay? The UMP takes a lot less skill because it's a lot easier to aim. It is really good damage if you can get headshots, but the actual thing is that the time to kill, we have a time to kill video out. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch the last video. The time to kill is actually slower than the P90 and the MP5 on paper, in theory. So the UMP really good because it's easy to aim, and I think that's why people are just realizing they're killing people fast with it, because they're getting more headshots, they're getting more, hitting more shots, missing less, so they're doing really good with it. But whenever you go up against someone who has an MP5 and you have a UMP, you usually lose that fight unless that person with the MP5 just missed shots. Now, the problem is on paper, the P90 is really, really good, but in practice it's not, because you have to hit the target more with more shots, which means you have less room for missing. Every miss with a bullet you do really messes up the time to kill math. The whole point of the P90 was for build break. And so for build break, what you want to do is, you don't need this gun anymore. You really don't need it for build break anymore. And because the MP5 shoots through build and kills the player, all right? And the UMP does a decent job at breaking build now as well, because all SMGs take 5 bullets. The only reason why the P90 is better is because it has a slightly faster rate of fire. Slightly, okay? Now, the problem is it's just hard because you have to hit more shots. Not as easy to get headshots, all right? UMP is A tier because it just doesn't do as much damage as the MP5. And you also need you don't have a scope. The MP5 is actually pretty easy to hit headshots because you have a scope on it that actually really helps, okay? Now, the problem is for the UMP, you don't have that, so it makes it a little harder in that regard, okay? But easy to one-hand, easy to peek with if you don't practice like every day. So the UMP, definitely an amazing gun, A tier, but it's just not as good as the MP5. Okay, I'm going to put the Uzis all the way at F damn tier, okay? So the Uzis were S tier like two major changes ago, which was just crazy. But now they're that horrible, okay? The reason why they're horrible, because in this meta, in the close range, you die so fast, you can't stand there on the ground and just stand there with your Uzis in your hands trying to hit your shots, because you're going to die. So how do you fight in the close range? You peek. You do drive-bys or fly-bys, which is where you're really close. You fly really quick around the person while you're firing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch my recent videos. You just can't stand in the open, even one-on-one. So the problem with the Uzis is you can't peek with them really well. You can kind of throw your face into it and reach over, but it's not that easy to do. The reload got nerfed a little bit ago if you didn't have a PC. And the problem is ammo. It takes so much ammo, and it's so hard these days to find ammo. It really feels like it for all guns, not just the AWP, at least for me. So Uzis, the worst SMG. I think they're F tier. I really don't pick these up unless I'm just trying to have fun, because I was using these and I was practicing with them forever. They were meta until this recent change. Now you shouldn't even pick these up, okay? Period. Now, let's get through the close range since we're talking about the MP5. The MP5 shapes this whole meta, okay? And it's really important to go over the close range first because of how it shapes the whole meta, all right? So let's get rid of the shotguns, all right? We have all the shotguns right here. Straight out, the DT and the the DT and the M10 are not as good as I thought they were. Okay, in the last video, I actually put them up at S tier or a high up in A tier. The problem is now it's just it's really not good to use a shotgun, okay, period, because of how dangerous the MP5 is. The person with the MP5 can literally peek and just, mow you down by shooting you in the face. You die in half a second. This gun, you have to be directly on them, okay? When I was practicing this on day one in the first week of this game, I didn't realize how close you really have to be to get the DT11, for example, to hit that 80 damage. Like, you have to be literally on top of the enemy, okay? And that is great in normal squads games, or that can happen, sure, but it's not easy to do. Like, your whole team can't have DT11s, for example. You can have one person on your team with the DT11 while your other two members use SMGs, but you can't go in with 3 DT11s anymore, or 3 M10s for that matter, right? Because, again, of how dangerous it is. You can't fly at someone or move in on someone if 3 enemies are shooting you with an SMG, all right? So the DT11 got hit a lot harder than I thought. And the M10 I thought was really good at first. A lot of us were using both of these guns in the first couple weeks of the highest level of gameplay, Diamond Division in Arc. We were using this for the first 2 weeks. Now, if you watch my stream, every single day, you're really lucky to see one DT11 kill or M10 kill. Okay, you're really lucky. And if we're using that, it's because someone just loves that gun, and I know those people, or it's you didn't have an MP5 for real. So whenever you're watching the highest level gameplay nowadays, it's always the MP5 in the last final zones, the last 2 zones, when it gets close range. The DT11 and the M10, it only really comes out in those niche situations or if someone's desperate. You don't need them. You don't need them anymore. Especially in normal squads games where there's swords, and swords are so dangerous, you pretty much have to get into sword range with a shotgun. And that's a no-go. In competition, where I play, the sword's usually banned. And so the shotguns are a little higher on the tier list. So if I'm considering that the sword is in the game, and the sword is still S tier for what it does, it's still up here, I think. I honestly think the shotguns, I think the shotguns are down here in the C tier. Just in normal squads games. In competition, they're definitely like B, A tier. Like the DT11 is like A-ish tier, A, B tier, somewhere in between. But like in normal squads games, like it's in C tier because you have to get so close. And the Matadors are horrible for the same reasons that the Uzis are, right? They're horrible at breaking build. You have to reload essentially to kill someone unless you have the gold ones. Yes, you can kill someone. I hear people go, I can kill someone with the Matadors. Well, that person was probably ground walking in your face close enough to get shot by Matadors. Like that, we're not talking about a tier list that can just kill the day one player, right? We're talking about a tier list where everyone, when everyone learns all the weapons, they get better with them, this is what's going to happen. So you might not see all these things happening in your games today, but like this is happening at the highest level, which will always trickle down to you all like very soon if it hasn't already. I was kind of half like trolling when I put the pistols like such high kind of tier in the last list. It was just really fun to see the pistols get a nice little buff, right? So I had the PX4 at S tier. It's certainly not S tier, all right? So S tier for all is like it's broken, it needs a nerf. This gun shapes the entire meta. The PX4 does not do that, okay? Now the PX4 is good, don't get me wrong, but if you're not used to shot lead, like leading your shots with it, all the pistols have really slow bullet travel speed. On the first week, it felt like the bullet travel speed was okay and that I could adapt to it. But since I'm so used to hit scan where the bullets instantly hit the target now, it's really hard for me to get used to this really slow bullet travel speed, okay? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the pistols have a slower bullet travel speed than the SMGs and the assault rifles. And that really hurts it a lot more than you think. even in the close range, it's not like easy to hit all your shots because there is a little bit of lead. So if the person's zigzagging, it's a little difficult. So that being said, the pistols are definitely not S tier, none of them, but they're not horrible. The PX4 on paper has a really, really fast time to kill. Like, if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch all my other videos. But the Magnum also, like 80-ish damage for one shot, peak. Like, that's beautiful. They still have a niche, and the niche is, for the Magnum, is to shoot the head peekers in the close range, okay, or close to mid-ish range, because you can get good burst on a headshot, especially with a gold Magnum, okay? So the Magnum is niche in that it's good for shooting head peekers while you are peeking something, peeking like holding hard cover if you're a new player here. You're holding hard cover, looking over the wall just enough to shoot the other person in the head, and you get massive burst. They took like 100 damage, then you charge them with another weapon. That's what the Magnum is good for. So I'm going to put it at B tier just because it has that nice niche. Now the PX4 is very similar in that the PX4 actually has the fastest time to kill, like one of the fastest time to kills in the game on paper, but it's really hard to hit all your headshots with the bullet travel speed. But the beauty of this gun is it breaks build in 2 hits, so it's got its own little niche in that in the close to mid-ish range, if you're spamming this, you can like literally blind fire over the cover, just spam the thing, and it's going to break the person's build in 2 shots, which is really fast because this gun shoots really fast, and if you're hitting headshots, you're doing 50-ish damage per headshot. That is serious business, so it's not a horrible weapon. It has a niche. Like if you don't have an MP5, it has a niche. As long as you can hit your shots. Like before, people go, oh yeah, I love the PX4, I main it, and that's like a joke. But now, like if you are a serious hardcore diehard for the pistols, if you were to master this, and I mean straight master this, like spend time training it, you could probably be, you could kill it in normal squads. But like, in competition, probably not so much. But like, this is a serious gun now. It wasn't before, so cool. They're still great. They're definitely not S tier. I was trolling before. The 1911 is the worst out of them because of it got nerfed to its clip size for whatever reason. It didn't need it. It is not good. Not good. Okay, so I'm dropping this down here. We're gonna put it at E tier because it's not as useless as these guns, because at least you can peek something with it and be safe while you're shooting. Okay. M60, I just can't. I love this gun, and I just can't find a niche for it. Okay, now this is, if you're going to find a niche for the M60, it's for mid-range, spamming your shots to break build. You can't hit head peekers with this right now, and that's a good nerf, I suppose. I could hit head peekers a mile away while I'm head peeking before. Now you cannot hit head peekers with one hand or even 2 hands with this. It's really hard, and I think that's a good thing. It's a healthy thing for the meta, healthy thing for the gun. So it is not a horrible weapon, but it's definitely a support weapon. Like your other 2 people have to be laying on fire because you have to literally stand here pretty much and 2-hand it. It's very hard to one-hand it. You can one-hand it, but if you're one-handing, you're probably just breaking build. Your accuracy is probably not going to be good enough to kill someone with who's at least a semi-competent player, right? So this is somewhere between like a D to C tier. You really don't need the M60 anymore. You actually needed the M60 pre-patch because it was really, really hard to break build, because the SMGs didn't break build as fast before. And their SMGs weren't good before, so no one used them really. And so now there really is no need for the build break guns, and that's why the P90 is down on this tier. P18 is still D-ish tier, maybe even E or F tier, to be honest. Let's see here. It's definitely not, like if I see it on a drop, like I'll choose it over these 2. So I guess it's got a niche. So we're going to put this at E tier, maybe a little higher than the 1911. That's being a little harsh on it. This gun, in theory, if you can aim really well with it, can kill in 3 bursts. And it can be done. Someone has taught us how to do it. I'm going to put a masterclass video out for it. But it's not easy to one-hand, okay? And we're still trying to develop the technique for that. I'm getting helped by a good friend in like learning that. And I'm going to put out the video for it later, don't worry. But the 2-hand is actually really easy once you figure out the little trick for it. But the problem is you have to 2-hand it. I don't see like a need for it. It just doesn't have a niche. There's no niche. You can do everything else that this gun does, like like with the other rifles. So the only time this gun was a seriously usable gun was when it was broken, it was a glitch, and you could like rapid fire it by like using a glitch. That doesn't exist anymore. And even then it wasn't like stupid OP. So like it's not a good gun. FAL is amazing because, as I always say, the beauty of it is by the time you realize you got shot by it, you already ate 3 bullets because it's a quiet gun. It's like the bullets are quiet. Like when you hear an M60 fire and you hear that a mile away, but the FAL is quiet. So by the time you hear that, dude, like you already got hit 2 to 3 times, and so you took a lot of damage. So it's really good for bursting, even though it's like a semi-auto weapon, which is kind of funny. All right. So it's really good because it does great damage long distance. There's not a lot of great long distance guns now. And you can use it mid-ish distance, which is really, really good. Watch the masterclass video. I know a lot of you haven't watched it. There's not a lot of views on the masterclass videos this patch. I don't know why, because y'all really need to practice these weapons. The FAL is god tier. When it's real comp going on, competition, the highest level, everyone's got a FAL or an op, right? Until it gets to the close range and it's just MP5s or UMP. That's it. Like, that's how good this gun is, all right? So, excellent weapon, really strong. Now, the RFB. I really am liking the RFB this patch, right? I mean, I was always liking the RFB, and I used the RFB. My competition partner, Colin the Five, one of the best players in the world right now, and really awesome right now because this is his fucking meta, because of how this meta has changed. The RFB is like really, really, really good right now. It was good before in the last patch, but now it's like really, really, really good, okay? And so the reason why I say that is because it's just so easy to aim. And the damage is really good at long range, okay? So it's easy to aim, good at long range. The reason why this wasn't good last patch is because it didn't have good range. The AK had so much more range than the RFB, okay? And that still might be a little bit true. No, that's not quite true at all. The RFB is actually still really, really good at range now. Okay, it got buffed. If you want to compare to last time, it got a super buff to its range, and it's easier to aim than the AK still. Okay, the AK recoil pattern is easy. It's easier than pre-patch, but it still takes some practice because it's kind of a tricky pattern. So the RFB recoil pattern is literally down, like a little swiggle, and then a big swiggle, and then like you end the tail of that curve, and that's it. And so it's really easy to just do it all in your wrist, a wrist movement, and it's like simple. So you can peek the wall, fly around, and do it with a wrist movement. The AK has a lot of recoil that, yes, it should be a wrist movement as well, but it's got a trickier recoil. It's got like this kind of 2 humps on the right that are just a little less intuitive. So it shoots faster, so you can't miss a shot. It's similar to the P90 in that if you miss a shot, you have a lower time to kill than if you were just using a more reliable weapon like the UMP here versus the P90. Same thing with RFB and the AK is what I'm finding. And I have one of the best AK aims out there, or at least I used to. This patch, I honestly haven't put the time into mastering it enough. But I was one of the best AK aimers at one point, and I'm telling you that even I have problems aiming while getting my shot lead right on really good players who know how to move really well at far distance, okay? But since I don't have to hit as many shots with the RFB, and the pacing on it just feels better and the recoil just feels more natural, I'm able to really focus more on the shot lead, and I'm hitting more shots with the RFB, so I'm probably doing more damage overall with the RFB, even though the AK is still better in like the closer mid-range because it does more headshot damage, okay? So don't get me wrong, the AK and the RFB are probably tied if you want to rank them. They're both really good. They do different things. The AK does more damage up close versus the RFB, but the RFB is just more accurate, more reliable. So if you want to say it's better at long range, that would probably be accurate. So they're very balanced. So they're tied in ranking. The AK is really, really good, okay? Now, the reason why I was banging on the AK, but the AK is still an amazing-ass weapon because of how much damage it does in the close range. It pretty much rivals the P90 and the UMP here. Not the MP5 whatsoever, but if you're hitting all headshots, it pretty much rivals the other two weapons. But the beauty of it is you can get that maximum damage at a farther range than these 3 weapons. So as long as you know how to control your range when you're fighting the SMG player, and you understand what the effective ranges are on these weapons, like, okay, here I'm getting maximum damage on my AK, I know he's got an SMG, I'm going to take this duel and I'm going to win it. Like, if you know how to utilize those effective ranges, the AK is amazing for that. It's still great long range. You don't have many great guns for long range. You have these 3, the CX4 and the OP, which we'll get on here. But the AK, amazing ass weapon. I still consider this one of my main weapons, and I pick it up where I can. Okay, it is a good substitute if you can't find a good SMG laying around for the close range, and that's what keeps it up so high on this tier list. All right, so let's put the CX4 somewhere. This is gonna be hilarious. And so, I'm gonna put the CX4 up here. I might be trolling y'all a little bit. Just a little bit, but I'm gonna put the CX4 up here in B tier, right? And that's just because it's this meta is so weird, all right? The long range is a really weird kind of game right now because there's only 1, 2, like really 5 weapons that are the op, which we'll put here soon, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's really only 5 weapons that are seriously effective in like the long range. And so you're really safe a lot of the time in the long range, particularly in the early game if that person can't find a long range weapon. So the CX4 is really good just for getting poke damage, all right? You can literally blind fire. You don't need to even like look through the sight or anything like that. You can literally blind fire over a building and just aim with the crosshair because it's so easy and just get some damage. You're not going to kill anyone with this gun, don't get me wrong. You're not going to kill a good player with this gun, but you're going to get some poke damage. So you're whittling down their shield, like their shield sodas and their shakers. You're whittling them down, and then you go in with another weapon to seal the deal. Okay, you're not going to get, again, kills with this. I have used this in scrims, and use this in comp. It's a great weapon for shooting people flying in the air, right, on the drop or anything like that. So it's really gone up in my book. You have to blind fire with this weapon to make it B tier because you don't need to be looking at your target. You just take a peek at where your target is and then you literally just like blind firing. Or you just look just barely enough to see it. Keep your hand tight because it's so accurate. You don't have to worry about controlling recoil with your wrist. You don't have to hold your hand up really high. Tight peek, long distance, and you're doing damage. It's really good for newer players too because like they can even put damage on me when I have an op long range and it just makes me panic a little bit. But overall, this is like not a joke of a weapon anymore. I mean, sure, if you hear someone using this in the close range, you charge them because they shouldn't be using this in the close range. But like seriously, like for the really, really long range, I prefer the CX4 to the AK because it's really hard to control the AK recoil and the shot and worry about the shot lead these days versus this. And the problem is ammo. If you didn't realize, ammo, yes, for the AWP is hard to find, but ammo for all guns for me seems a lot harder to find. Sure, you can kill a new player and they have like 200 of each ammo on their body, but if you don't find that kind of thing, you actually realize you're really low on ammo a lot of the time. If you're fighting good players particularly who don't just die in 20 shots. So the AK is not efficient with ammo. It's actually the worst assault rifle besides the M60, and we're not talking about the MK18, but it's the worst out of these series for assault rifles for ammo. I can go through in a competition game, I can go through 300 to 400 rounds because I'm breaking build with it. I'm spamming them to keep them, undercover, keep them pressured. So it is really not ammo efficient. The CX4 and the FAL are really ammo efficient. You only need 40 bullets with the FAL, and you can hold off a team for a long, long time. Okay, and that's why also the FAL is God tier. But the CX4 also very ammo efficient. If you're not missing shots, it's beautiful. You ain't gonna break build with this thing, but I mean, it has a niche. That's what I'm saying. The B tier is niche tier. Okay, so niche tier is B-ish tier, and everything else is kind of just, we're kind of getting into the shambles here, right? The AWP, everyone knew it was going to be S tier. S tier, again, is the broken tier, shapes the meta, needs a slight nerf, or a major nerf, depending on the ranking of these, all right? But the AWP is goddamn S tier, right? The only reason why this gun is not just used everywhere and all the time is because of the ammo nerf, okay? But like every team has an opper. You need an opper on every single team to hit the headshots, to get the big burst damage, to steal the kills, because it is a good kill steal weapon. It's just that damn good. You can use this in the mid range if you know how to quick scope with it. You can use it hell in the close range if you know how to quick scope with it. It's that good. It changes the whole dynamic of a fight. One bullet you get with an op can make your team win the entire firefight. If the person really knows how to use the op, the FAL isn't a good rival for it either, because the FAL is really, yes, it's good. It can be used long range and it's good long range, but it's not nearly as effective long range as the op is for obvious reasons. Okay, so a really good opper is just going to come out really quick, use peeker's advantage, take their shot, come down, work a different angle. So it's pretty much going to be impossible for you to hit them with a FAL. From long distance, if they know how to really strafe. Watch my strafing video. The Sako is a really niche weapon. Okay, it does really good damage now, particularly if you hit a headshot. So it's really good at shooting head peekers while you're head peeking. Okay, and it's beautiful for it. It's great. The problem is you just can't find sniper ammo. And if you have sniper ammo, you're better off giving it to your op player, because the op really does everything that the Sako does except better. So with that, you need to consider it as only a head peek weapon, and so it has pretty much the same niche as the Magnum, except the Sako shoots further. It's more effective longer range, but you just don't have ammo. All right, so the Sako is probably a steady B tier for its niche use only, but just the fact that it really just you don't have a lot of ammo makes it very difficult. The op, it's the king of the long range. We have the MP5 king of the short range. This is our tier list for this meta. This will likely stand for a very, very long time.